Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it. Good morning, everybody. Cowboy here, Nick Pietruzzello, aka, and we just had some data come out. Bitcoin breaking the all-time highs, and Bitcoin, yeah, that was something that really, the higher time frames were redlining, like going back a week at least. And so a new all-time high was in the cards. I definitely, well, actually, if you're watching these shows, you saw me talk about it probably every day for the last week or two. But I gave some numbers to the Algo Factory crowd. So let's go ahead and start with Bitcoin, since it is the big ticket right now. I can tell you a lot of it does have to do with the rest of the market spooling up, but understand that Bitcoin is still in its bull. It's just, we're at a point now where we have to ask ourselves, how far into the bull market are we? Now, I usually have certain tools that I use when it comes to, do I think the bull market's over? That kind of thing. There is a specific tool that I use that right now is actually not useful because of the way that tool works. So I usually have a way to say, hey, the bull market's probably over, but the calendar works pretty well. So we're going to talk about where price might go. We're going to talk about how long price might be going up. And we're going to look at some of the history of how it's happened in the past. So we'll make this a bit more of a Bitcoin episode, but remember that the rest of the market is contributing, right? So let's go ahead, and I'm going to bring up the all-time history for Bitcoin. And we're going to go back to, looks like, there we go. So I'm going to go to the index here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit a button here. This goes all the way back to 2013. Or actually, I think it goes back to 2010. So, Bitcoin way back in the day, you see all the way back here to the left, price isn't moving very much. Well, actually, it's moving very much relative to itself. But, there's a big difference between 1 cent and $1. But you're not going to see that because we're looking in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're going to do something called logarithmic. So what this does, and it might be hard to see on the screen. Uh-oh, my screen froze. So let's fix that. Okay, I'm glad I noticed that right away. It's because I changed something. Anytime I change something on my software, the screen freezes, but I can fix that. I just have to be cognizant of it. Okay, so now what you're going to see here is on the far left, you have the beginning of Bitcoin. And this actually goes back to October of 2009. And if I were to scroll or to expand here, you'll notice that you're talking about, first it's basically no cents, still no cents. I mean, I could stretch it out to give you a more exact price here, but it doesn't even really register a price change until it hits a penny. So it's a penny here in 2010. Then it goes to like 2 pennies and then like 5 pennies. And you're talking about a change of pennies, right? Well, the way that a logarithmic chart works is that the farther up you go, the bigger the difference in price. So from, from here to here is a difference in 4 cents. So if I just kind of zoomed in like this, and that way you can see like from 1 cent to 3 cents, that's a 2 cent difference, right? When you take that same arrow, you put it up here, and that's the difference between 39 cents and $1, right? You take that same arrow and you put it way over here, that's the difference between $13 and $36. So each increment up, everything compresses because that gives us the ability to see changes in price relative to itself, right? It's just a way to take a look at the change in price pattern. And by the time you get all the way out to modern day, a move between, 16,000 and 110,000 is like way smaller than a move of a few dollars. That said, what you can do is look at the pattern of the all-time highs. And so if I were to add on this, we'll add on Bitcoin halving events. Then each of these yellow lines are the Bitcoin halvings. And then you see after the halving, there's an all-time high, which I will manually demark right here with a different color. We'll use blue or whatever you call this color. Hold on. Make it that color. So here's an all-time high. In fact, I bet you I could find Bitcoin all-time high events. Bitcoin cycle high. Let's see if that works. Okay, that's ugly. I'll just mark it myself. So you got this cycle high, that cycle high, this cycle high, and we're probably approaching our cycle high. So if you look at the prior events, now Bitcoin it's different to what it was, but these are relatively similar kind of events, meaning that after the halving, you get an all-time high after a certain period of time. And it's not something that I would be really rigid about following. I wouldn't say, hey, it happened in exactly 532 days and this year, so it's going to be 532 days next year. No, I wouldn't do that, but it's going to give you an idea. So the first time it was a year. It was like 350 days, 360 days from the halving to the all-time high. The next time was longer. It's 532 days. And that was in the 2018, 2017 high. The next time, last cycle, was about 530 days. So the most recent two highs were about where they're almost exactly 546 days, almost exactly the same as each other. So why don't we just do a little, there's not a lot of data points. This isn't that rigid. I wouldn't depend on it, but it gives us kind of an idea. If you go out 546 days or so, then that puts us in November for an all-time high, right? But that's if the pattern continues. Now, of course, the first high was only a year after the halving, right? And Bitcoin was pretty new. The first high really was, there was no halving. It was just the Genesis block. And if you want to do that, you're looking at roughly, interesting. It's not giving me days. Well, 81 bars. So roughly about the same as these other events, right? These other are 78 bars. This was about 80 bars. So just not sure why it's giving me volume instead of days. It's just not giving me days. That's fine. Whatever. We know it's about the same. So if we have an all-time high at that time, it could continue to go up until then. It might also do a nasty pullback until then. Look at this early situation here. Back in 2013, you actually had this kind of a first peak, and then you had a pullback of 80%, and then it made a new peak, right? That's remarkable. So you had a halving, and an 80% pullback, and then a new high. Well, Bitcoin was new back then. Then each of these has pullbacks, but 2016 to 2017 was pretty linear. Well, not linear, but pretty parabolic, we'll say, right? Pretty predictable. Now, the 2020 to 2022 or 21 high had a peak and then a second peak. It was kind of a double top. And that pullback from that first top to the second top, which was not much higher than the first top, is about 55%. Now, we had a pullback this time, right? But it looks like price is not just going to top out where it is. It looks like it will continue higher, but this pullback was 30%. So that's pretty remarkable. So we have a precedent for a pullback at least another high, if not a new high. And we have a precedent for roughly, how many days did we say? 546, right? So that put us in November. So I'll go ahead and mark that out. Now, when you do this kind of thing, this is a back test that you're seeing right now, but a back test typically needs way more data. So this is why I'm not too rigid about saying, hey, this is probably going to happen, because there have only been so many halvings, right? What are there been? 1, 2, 3, 4 halvings. So without a ton of cycles, without a ton of data, you really can't form a strong thesis, right? You have to make some room for, hey, Bitcoin's changing and the market's different, and We have institutional money in the game now, and there's a lot of changes that have occurred, but at least we have a somewhat of a framework. And the real question is, how high can it go? Well, we'll do this really quick before we go over to the private live lab. Let me go ahead and just erase all this data now that we've established, let's just say late October, early November, we'll say. And let's remove this indicator. And we'll put a line in October. Just like I said, I wouldn't be too rigid on that, but let's just say price does continue up. Certainly this time there's a bit of a supply shock where there wasn't before, so that might contribute to a much higher move. But if we were to look at this, and this is just a grind upwards. This might, this could be a new paradigm as well. It could be a lot of things that change. But if I were just to keep it super simple and do a Fibonacci move on this impulse right here, actually, I'll do it right here on this clean impulse. Then we can have some basic idea of targets here. So let me zoom in. So we're looking at this move. This is a monthly or a weekly chart. So we're going back to the move from September all the way to the high in December. I'm going to put a Fibonacci tool on that. And because we're in price discovery now, officially Bitcoin's never been this high. So we don't have any past data to indicate what's going to happen. So the Fibonacci targets are 122,000 and about 141,500. For just to go by Fibonacci, which really that's almost all you can do in this scenario. You can't go back and say, hey, price did this back before when it was this high, because it's never been this high. So the only thing I can hold on to, unless you want to go look at quant data, is going to be 122 to 141,000. So that's what there is to watch. And the major difference in the Bitcoin market as compared to what it was in prior years was that officially the institutional money is in the game. Now, I happen to know that the institutional money probably has been in the game for quite some time. I mean, I know this. I don't know how much institutional money was in the game. I don't know how much they owned, but my business partner is pretty well linked into that game. Give me a second to stop that noise. My business partner does a lot of deals in Bitcoin, works with a lot of institutional traders and stuff like that. And Bitcoin has been consolidated amongst a certain group of people for quite some time now, going back several years. So what's happening now was probably planned out, who knows how long ago, maybe from the start. And not to get too terribly conspiratorial, but also understand that SHA-256, which is, one half of the encryption of Bitcoin, was supposedly written by the government, a particular government agency, one that one of the secret types. So this whole thing could easily have been planned out from the start by very important people. And then, it was discouraged through the media to buy it because they wanted to have all of it. And so long story short, this might just continue up and go, and, who knows where it's going to go. I think a lot of the game is going to be made still in the alternative coin space. I know a lot of people probably want to know what's happening with Ethereum. Ethereum's doing pretty well just in the last few weeks, but I always compare Ethereum to Bitcoin. And really, it doesn't look good. If you are going back, Ethereum did great against Bitcoin up until 2017. This is a weekly chart. We're going all the way back to 2015 here. And as of now, sure, it's had a good few weeks, but going back to the 2022 cycle, Ethereum has done nothing but fall against Bitcoin with the exception of the last few weeks. So looking at this chart, unless something major changes with Ethereum, I don't know that I would be terribly excited about it. I can see Hype has been doing really well. Look at Hype. Holy moly. Everybody's trading. So yeah, I think the game is going to be made on the altcoins at this point. I think that, we just got to, if you're going to play with crypto, in my opinion, it's something to buy and hold at the right time and to sell at the right time. People trade it. People make money trading it. I used to trade it all the time and I was profitable, but I prefer to actually trade forex and put my profits into crypto and then hold crypto through the cycle. I have made more money on crypto than anything else, certainly. But most of that, well, in 2017, 2016, and 2018, most of that was from trading. Since then, a lot of it was trading, but a lot of it was just simply buy and hold and trading other stuff and putting profits into crypto. So back then, trading crypto was a little different than it is now. But either way, if you want to trade crypto, the reliability of trading it is not as good as, like, say, trading forex. So what I know that people do is they take some crypto, they put it on an exchange like Prime XBT, and they will trade forex for the small gains, and then they'll keep their base currency in whatever crypto they like. There are several choices on there, and then they'll use the gains to go ahead and buy crypto and hold that through the cycle. So that's, I think, kind of a better way to do it, because forex trading is a little bit more reliable, right? So if you want to see how that's done, I didn't go on today to do a lot of live trading because we had the data come out, and we'll briefly talk about that before we go over to the to log off of the public look here. Unemployment claims did come out. We also have more data coming out here shortly. I think Powell's going to speak. Let me see what it is. Oh no, it's a lot of it's PMI data coming out like later today. So unemployment claims came out pretty much a little lower than expected. Probably didn't affect price that much, but we have PMI coming out in about an hour. So until PMI comes out, trading is going to be a little bit risky, because the PMI, if it's too far off expectations, even with Bitcoin, can really throw things off if you're like day trading, swing trading. So I'll probably hold back from the live trading at least until the PMI comes out, and then that'll be shortly after the private live lab is over, and then I'll probably come on and look for some trades. And what I do is I talk about my trades. I actually send the data as far as stop loss and entries and exits. I send that over to Algo Factory's private live lab. But anybody who's watching can kind of see, oh, he's going to enter around this time. Anybody who knows how to trade or day trade will be able to kind of see what I'm doing and, make your own assumptions about it. I will share a trade once in a while on YouTube, but not every day. And again, whatever I'm doing is all for educational purposes only, not intended for investment advice. So make sure that whatever trades you are doing are all based on your own research. I'm going to hop off now. Go over to your go to the description, and in there is a link. And if you click on that link, you will get a free algo. And you just give us your email, and immediately you'll have that free algo. You don't even have to open your email, although it will be sent to your email. You'll get some video instructions on how that works. Please do that. Also, come over to algofactory.tech, learn how to trade like a hedge fund pro, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Join us or die.
Just kidding. You're not going to die. It's just Alan Rickman being silly. All right. So, but do join us though. Love to see you. Catch you next week. I may do some live trading tomorrow if the conditions are good. So I might see you tomorrow. But definitely next week. Much love to you all.